All right, let's now discuss the other segment of the end of year one collection, which is your behavioral incidents. So again, this slide identifies all of the reasons for collection for end of year, specifically for behavioral incidents. At the start of this session, Nate discussed the different collection purpose for the behavioral incidents. On this slide, we're covering the basic rules for reporting behavioral incidents in CalPAS for end of year 1. All incident data reported here must fall between July 1, 2025 and June 30, 2026. If it happened during that window, it belongs in this submission. Incident records are reported for students who were primarily enrolled, secondarily enrolled, or short-term enrolled, and this applies to all grade levels from TK through grade 12. Every school site within the LEA is responsible for identifying students who are involved in incidents. For non-public schools, the expectation is that the NPS collects the incident information, but the LEA is responsible for submitting the data to CalPAS on a student's behalf. A key point here is that CalPAS administrators are not expected to decide what is or isn't reportable. LEAs and schools should already have local policies and procedures in place so that staff know how to identify, document, and report incidents correctly. This is especially important for incidents involving restraint and seclusion, where staff training and clear documentation are required to ensure accurate and compliant reporting. So let's now see what behavioral incidents must be reported in CalPEDS. First, all violations related to Education 48900 and 48915 must be reported, even if the incident did not result in a suspension or expulsion. The absence of disciplinary action does not mean the incident is excluded from reporting. In addition, every instance of restraint or seclusion involving students with disabilities and general ed students must be reported, even if it is not connected to a 48900 or 48915 offense. These incidents are reportable on their own. For each incident, LEAs must report all results for each student involved. That means if multiple outcomes occur, such as a suspension and a removal, each result must be captured. When reporting suspensions, any portion of a day counts as a full day for reporting purposes. This applies to all students regardless of grade level or disability status. LAs are required to report duration for in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, and expulsions. Duration is not required for other incident results. It is important to note that for restraint and seclusion, LA should always refer back to Ed Code 49005.1 to ensure incidents are being identified and reported correctly. So all incidents involving behavioral restraint or seclusion must be reported to meet requirements for Ed Code 49005.1. This applies to both general education students and students with disability. These incidents must be reported even if they did not involve the statutory Ed Code violations related to 48900 or 48915. In other words, restraint and seclusion incidents are reportable on their own, separate from suspension or expulsion offenses. So the purpose of collecting this data is to allow the CDE to monitor the use of restraint and seclusion statewide and ensure compliance with statute. The data you certify in this submission is also used later for monitoring determinations, so accuracy and completeness are critical. As mentioned in the previous slide, restraint and seclusion data is used for monitoring, and that's why accuracy here is especially important. So let's see the context of this. So the courts have directed the Special Education Division to use certified restraint and seclusion data as part of its annual monitoring determinations. This means the data you certify in end of year one is not just for reporting, it directly informs monitoring follow-up. That means LAs that report more than two restraints or seclusions per student may be required to complete student record reviews as part of monitoring. LEAs may also be flagged for questionable data quality if they report zero incidents of restraint or seclusion while serving more than 100 students with disabilities, or they report zero incidents while serving more than 100 students with disabilities in non-public schools, or fail to certify their end of year one submission. Again, being flagged doesn't automatically mean something was done wrong, but it does mean the LA will be required to complete additional monitoring activities to validate data quality and accuracy. Since July 1, 2020, the state has prohibited suspensions for willful defiance for all grade levels. This rule applies to all public schools, including charter schools. The key exception is any incident involving Ed Code 48910, which allows a teacher to suspend a student from class, not from school, for the day of the incident and the following day. This is often referred to as teacher suspension, and it must be immediately reported to the principal. So because of this law, CalPAS included a data discrepancy warning, SOFF0710E1, which triggers when a student is reported as suspended for Student Offense Code 511, which is disruption or defiance in grades where suspension is not allowed, which is basically all. So this is a warning, not a fatal error, but it's an important signal to review your local discipline practices and make sure the incident's results being reported match what is legally permitted. Again, the takeaway here is that defiance incidents may still be reported, but suspension results tied to defiance are heavily restricted. LA should rely on restorative practices, interventions, and supports rather than suspension to ensure your reporting aligns with state law. So let's just clarify what teacher suspension is. So while school level suspensions for defiance are largely prohibited, there is still limited authority under state law for teacher suspensions. So let's take a closer look at Ed Code 48910. This slide would clarify what we mean by teacher suspension and how it's different from a school suspension. Under Ed Code 48910, a teacher may suspend a student from class, not from school, for a day of the incident and the following day for any act listed in Ed Code 48900. A key distinction here is that a teacher suspension is classroom level, not a removal from the school site. The student is immediately sent to the principal or designee for appropriate action, and if a student remains on campus, they must be under appropriate supervision. Also, the teacher is required to promptly notify the principal and request a parent-teacher conference as soon as possible. In some cases, a counselor or psychologist or administrator may participate in that meeting. Another point of emphasis is that a student suspended from a class cannot be placed in another regular class during the suspension period. If the student has multiple classes, this restriction applies only to classes held at the same time. Finally, this authority does not override the defiant suspension ban. Teacher suspensions are the limited exception, not the rule, and they should be used carefully and reported accurately so CalPAS data reflects what actually occurred. So this slide is just a reminder to double check all incidents involving students with disabilities and that they are fully documented in your SIS. It is important to work closely with your CalPADS admin to make sure nothing is missed, especially incidents involving students with disabilities who are enrolled at non-public, non-sectarian certified schools or NPS. LA should coordinate with special education admins and case managers to identify any behavioral emergency reports or bursts that may indicate a reportable incident. This include incidents involving EDCO's 48900 or 48915 in school or out of school suspensions, expulsions, physical restraint, mechanical restraint, or seclusion. So the key point here is that if an incident occurred and it meets reporting requirements, it must be documented in the SIS first. CalPAS reporting depends on what exists in the local system. So this step is critical for accuracy, especially because restraint and seclusion data is used for monitoring. So again, this guide focuses on the reporting expectations for non-public schools or NPS, which is an important area of responsibility for LEAs. So LEAs and NPS schools are expected to have local policies and procedures in place to identify, document, and report incidents, particularly those involving restraint and seclusion for students with disabilities. It is also critical that staff at both the LEA and NPS are appropriately trained, and accurate reporting starts with staff understanding what must be documented and when. Again, a key reminder here is that CalPAS administrators are not responsible for deciding what is reportable. That determination should already be happening locally to establish discipline and reporting procedures. And also to be clear, LEAs are required to submit incident data for students placed at NPS schools. While the NPS is expected to collect the incident information, the LEA remains responsible for submitting that data to CalPADS. Let's now highlight the relationships between different file types involved in incident reporting. This is key when troubleshooting possible error during submission and certification. So the incident submission first requires a student's enrollment at the LEA. The incident must be reported at the corresponding school of attendance in the enrollment record using your student incident file. After the incident has been posted to CalPADS, the student incident results file and student offense file can be submitted. The values for students' SSID as well as the incident ID, school of attendance, and academic year ID are used to tie the students to the incidents and the results. So the sync is required to report all incidents and students involved in the incident. Each student involved in an incident will also be required to have at least one result record. Students who commit a statutory offense should also have a student offense record. So there are times though that if for behavioral incidents or incidents that do not involve any statutory offense, you would only report the SYNC and the SEERS record. So this slide shows how incident data is gathered and structured for CalPAS reporting. Front and center is the incident and the incident ID. So the incident involves the reporting of the incident date, the students involved, the incident results, which identifies if the student is suspended, expelled, restrained, secluded, and if appropriate, if a student also committed a reportable offense based on Ed Codes 48900 or 48915. There are times that an incident may not involve a student offense, and so you may only report the incident through the sync and the results through the SEERS. So this slide shows different ways incidents can be structured in CalPAS because not every incident looks the same, right? At the center of every scenario is the incident itself. From there, you also report what gets reported depends on who was involved and what happened. In some cases, you may have an incident that includes just one student with just a result and no offenses, and this typically for restraints and seclusions. You also have an incident for one student with one offense and one result. You also have scenarios where you have just one student involved. However, you have a statutory offense, which then resulted to incident results. Maybe the student was suspended first and then later expelled. And then you also have scenarios where an incident might involve multiple students. So you have the one student with multiple results, and you have another student that only had one result but committed multiple offenses. So this just emphasizes the different flavors of incidents LEAs may need to report in CalPAS. And so the key takeaway here is making sure that all of the relevant data are reported for each incident in CalPAS.